that first year of softball, I just, found myself just trying to get athletes to, kind of herding cat mentality, right? What I did is I went up to the coach pitch coaches and kind of watched their practice, got to know a couple of them, asked them, kind of what drills were they doing, and I scaled that down, right? So again, just building relationships with other coaches. I typically looked for a coach that I knew, or I asked, as because I was involved with the board a little bit, or knew some board members. How long has this coach been around? What's their background? Kind of getting the experience, so you can go to, quote unquote experts, right? So that's just one way if you're a youth coach. Another thing, when I started coaching football, I was a middle school coach. I got to know other middle school coaches. I already had friends who were high school coaches. Started picking their brains. I was a middle school at a private school that fed into a high school. I went to that high school coaches, that coaching staff, and for different positions, hey, what drills do you run? We started running a football program for all of the 10 elementary schools, K through 8 schools that fed the high school. We started running a football coaching clinic to where we were invited to their high school practice. And I would encourage this, if you're a high school coach, to maybe try your version of this. We got invited to a practice in the fall, typically the week before we started, because we were a couple weeks behind when the high school started. And we got to hang out on the field as they would run, a certain portion of their practice. They'd practice for an hour or so before we showed up, and then we would come out there, and they'd stop practice, talk for a minute, and then continue practice with all these other elementary, middle school type coaches out there. And it was just that. It was watch, if you're a linebacker coach or a defensive coach, you'd go watch the linebacker drills. If you're a D-line coach, you'd go watch the D-line. They'd break out, have some they made sure they did some offense, defense, talk a little special teams. We'd go, I'd go to the O-line guy, and I knew that coach already. And so I got to, pick his brain a little more just because I'm on the field. Oh, why are we doing it this way? Oh, I see you're calling it this. Just ask those questions. And they invited us to do that. Not all the coaches in the area where I was at would take advantage of it. I knew the high school staff, so I even, hey man, can I just come watch practice, this week? We're gearing up for our season. And most of the times, a high school coach, if you're involved in the middle school youth program, they're probably going to let you do that, okay? And if they're not, if you're a high school coach, middle school coach, I encourage you, reach to your youth coaches in the area, reach to your middle school coaches. And if you're middle or youth, talk to your high school coaches, find out what you can do to help them. When I was in the youth program last few years here, even while I was coaching at the high school and the middle school the year prior, I was involved with the middle school. I invited the high school coach to come talk to the youth program. So at the end of practice, and of course it helped, he had a kid in the program, he came to pick his son up, and just gave him 2 minutes, invited, and he'd invite the kids to come to the Friday night game, and cheer them on, and just encourage them to be good people. It wasn't real football heavy, but it was like at least those kids, those 4th, 5th, and 6th graders see the high school coach and he's there. They're more likely to show up to games. So again, we're building that program. We're building that mentality of you're playing now and your future on Friday nights is, a few years away. Same thing with middle school. Middle school coaches, we would invite the middle school when their season overlaps with us and they practice, just a little bit ways away at the same kind of campus, but on a different field with a couple fields in between. We'd invite them over one day to just go through warm-ups with us, right? And I've seen this at other schools where they do the same thing. They, just build that relationship, invite them. Again, as a high school coach, I'm JV and freshman. I go to that middle school practice, and sometimes the coaches be like, hey, here's Coach Fields, and I say, hey, hope to see you here next year down at the other field with us. Hope to see you at the game Friday night. Oh, JB's playing on Tuesday. Hope you can come to that game. Just building that relationship with the athletes as well. Same with parents. High school, youth, middle school coaches, get to know the parents. A lot of times coaches want to complain about parents, but if we do it right, we can build those relationships with parents to where the kids stay in the sport, the parents know us already, and we can, build that rapport. So when Johnny comes to you as a sophomore and he's complaining about playing time, well, if you already know the parents, you can sit down and be honest with him and not feel bad. Be like, well, he's not quite as fast as the other kids, and this position's not the best for him. We're thinking about moving him here, and it's a lot easier to talk to somebody a little bit than it is some Coaches meetings, parent coach meetings, youth level, middle school, high school, every level I've been at, we always run some version of a parent meeting. In the pandemic year it was a little difficult. We didn't really get to do it the way we normally would. Youth sports, first practice, end of first practice, because I don't want it to go into my practice time. I'd end, practice at 6:30, 6:31, parent meeting. I want the players there, I want the parents there, and I'm going to tell them my expectations, tell them my rules, tell them what I'm going to do. Youth level, everybody's going to play, and I'm going to rotate freely and just keep everybody happy and engaged in the game. Middle school, same thing. Parent meeting, hey, we're going to do this, this is the expectations, just going over kind of the rules. Over the years, I've accumulated kind of a list of things that I go over, and I just kind of keep that updated. If there's something I forget, expectations. Sometimes the league you teach for will provide like coaches code of ethics, parents code of ethics, good time to go over that. AAU does this, USA softball, USA football, they all have some things that you can get started with. So that's one way to build that. If you're a high school coach, I strongly encourage, if you're not already, run clinics for the young athletes. Invite the youth coaches to come watch the clinics and watch the drills you're doing. Get your middle school coaches there and have them involved with that as well. So again, we're building that continuity from our high school to the youth program, okay? So building coaching relationships, building parent relationships, building athlete relationships, and kind of putting all that together. So when a young athlete who's a fourth grader shows up to you when they're a freshman at the high school level, they already know your name, and you should probably know a little bit about them, at least sports-wise, okay? Probably who their parents are. So again, Coach Michael Fields, building a sports program from youth to high school. If you want to catch me on Instagram, it's Coach Michael Fields. Twitter is Michael K. Fields. Shoot me an email, coachmichaelfields@gmail.com. I appreciate your time, and thanks for watching.